Good morning and welcome to Jasiri. Now, a lot happens over the weekend, and that's why we've got Catch-Up Mondays, just so we can serve you all the trending and hot topics that you might have missed over the weekend. And speaking of hot topics, nothing is currently as hot as the ongoing nationwide protests sweeping across the country. And today marks day 5, even though there are speculations that people are either demotivated or have been threatened out of it, and some of that is linked to the speech that the president gave, which we will be dissecting in no time. But before we delve into all of that, ladies, how was your weekend? Catherine is not smiling. You are all smiles. What's going on?
Did you have a nice weekend?
Catherine, why did you say like you want to beat her?
I had a safe weekend. I was pretty quiet. Well, anyway, let me think about it. It was pretty quiet, but in a good way. It was quiet, it was restful. I was able to take some me time, which is always a good thing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the introvert's dream.
I couldn't breathe during the weekend,
Why?
apart from, well, looking for solace in my kitchen.
Oh, you said you were cooking all weekend. That's true.
That's the last place I find solace.
You?
Cooking.
I'm sorry if it's your husband, but like...
No, let's learn, man.
Oh, bless him.
They know me.
Except she really wants to.
Yeah.
The days that I decide, it's like a ceremonial thing for me, right? The day I decide to cook is like, okay,
whole
fine, I just want to...
production.
Yeah,
So what don't you like about the kitchen, about cooking?
The stress. It takes like 2 freaking hours to make a meal, or 1 hour, or even 30 minutes. Why?
So what's the part of, is it the prepping before?
So I think the prepping, right? Because say, for example, you want to make fried rice, you have to dice the
chop up
veggies and
everything.
all that. Because I remember that when I was able to get my hands on sliced veggies, everything was, pre-made.
Pre-made.
It was so easy. Like I was excited, like
it's not fresh.
exactly. So that stress before the stress, no, it's a problem.
I don't know, it's part of the ceremony for me. But I think the best part of cooking for me is having people there to eat it. Oh my goodness. I prefer to cook for people than just myself.
Are you for real?
Oh, are you kidding? Oh, yeah.
I would love to eat, but I'm always not in a, always not in a position where I can stay and eat. I'm always the one cooking.
Oh. We're going to cook for you, Mama.
And then I don't know if this happens. Oh, that's cute. Me too. Can I say that?
Yes, you can come.
They're not going with
I don't know if this happens to everyone, but when you end up being the one cooking, there's every chance that you would not eat because you lose your appetite.
It happens.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. It happens.
Apart from that, I think there were some areas in Lagos that were hot during the protest, and especially talking about on the mainland. I'm not really sure how I went on the island, and then the service providers.
Oh yeah, that's everywhere.
Was crazy.
Yes, everywhere.
I think that was the most frustrating thing for a lot of people.
That was the most frustrating
thing. It showed us how much a lot of us depend on service providers for internet to be connected to be. Have you caught yourself in a situation where you're cut off, like literally you can't go online, you can't do anything?
Yeah.
So what happens during those times? What do you do? How do you find a balance?
So I've learned to spend time with myself. Weirdly enough, I'm not addicted to social media, the internet. You do want to be able to be reached and reach people if you need to. So I can probably last like 2-3 days without the internet.
What do you do in that space?
I write, I read.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Listen to music.
Oh.
I love music. Yeah.
So I know that we had this conversation here before, and I was saying something like I've trained myself in such a way that it might seem that I am a very, social media. I'm a social media person, but when it comes to it, because it's not once, not twice. There was a time that one particular app was down, and people, it was like people were going to die. And then there was another time that it was like all the apps, but this one is like the telcos themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like when I just pick up my phone, oh no network, okay, where's the book? Or I play Ludo by myself.
Oh, I love that.
I have a concert in my house.
Oh, I love
that. I do a lot of things. I dance, I sing, it's like I'm okay, back to reality, or I leave social media. And it happens with me a lot. And it's because I do it on a regular day, right? I limit my social media time, except maybe for days when I'm trying to monitor something. I limit social media time to like 2 hours a day. So once the 2 hours elapsed, look for something else to do.
I think that's really healthy to find that balance, because a lot of, with the telcos misbehaving this period, it exposed a lot of people's dependence and to certain high percentage,
Absolutely.
most people high dependence on being able to be on social media, be connected, and then it takes you away from what you would do when you're in a position where that is not happening. I would tell the kids, I say it's time to drop, let's have conversations. We just gist, we'll just do things together, do house chores. We'll do house chores together. You must not feel like, especially the young people, a younger generation, the dependence on social media is crazy.
You know that people no longer know how to have eye contact, not even just conversations, eye contact for too long.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There was a time I was doing like it was like an unspoken social experiment, right? When I'm talking to people and then you see them go, yeah, so, you know, it's not like they're looking at you, but just that interval, they're just like, yeah, you know. I'm like, what is going on?
Well, my ladies, let's get back to the hottest topic right now, because you see, we can gist for days. Yeah. The streets are alive with the voices of Nigerians demanding change. We've seen a massive turnout across the country, and the reasons behind the protests are all diverse as the people themselves. It's important to understand that this isn't just about one issue. It's not. Nigerians are facing a multitude of challenges, from economic hardship to political corruption. It's just a lot of things. We are going to go to the streets and find out what people's reasons are for protesting. Let's hit the streets, guys.
It's happening to my school. The vision I have for my school, I cannot run it smoothly again because of the fuel subsidy.
How has Nigeria affected your school?
Nigeria has affected my school. The other day before the school closed, some children came to school. They could not feed. They came to school. They didn't bring food. And I asked them why. They said there's no food at home. Things are expensive. To pay school fees, I've reduced school fees, yet they cannot pay. The visions I had for this school, I want to show them, you know, visuals, computer, nothing, because things are so expensive. So I can't afford to sit back. That's why I came out, to lend my voice.
Great. I love that.
No sponsorship. No sponsorship. As a Nigerian, what is that benefit? I struggle, I finished school. Okay, I started teaching from one school to another. Now God helped me with a man, an Igbo man. He supported me. I was teaching, doing home lesson for his kids. And he said, Robert, I believe in you. What is your vision? I said, I want to start my own school. And he supported me. Right now, he and his family has jackpot to London. But if not for that man that sent me money, I would have closed down my school.
So you mean that your helper has left in Nigeria and has located?
Yes, but yet he still contact. His name is Mr. George Umodi from Anambra State. May God bless that man. Nothing Nigeria does for me. Every
suffering. So we are suffering. We are facing sometimes. We need this to come down. Buy the rice for 40,000. What are we going to use in the toilet? Are we going to keep it like that?
Everything that costs in Nigeria, so
if we the youth, we say we can't bear it very high. Say no to bad government. So we are here to stand our protest for this. We are here to support government. We say no to bad government. We say no to bad government. No bad government. We want to be one Nigeria. One Nigeria. Bring back Nigeria.
All right, so it's heavy, guys, but we've set the tone for today's conversation. And after the break, when we return from this quick break, we'll be delving into matters at hand, because what's important is that the protest has entered day 5, and whether we like it or not, the hashtag End Bad Governance is a trend that's going to stay. Let's go for a short break. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back. We're streaming live on our social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. Now, use the hashtag Jasiri to be a part of our conversations. Now, over the weekend, President Tinubu finally addressed Nigeria at 7 a.m. on Sunday, and that was like after 3 days of the protest. We're going to go deeper into his address, but very quickly, you know, we got news that Lagos State, out of all the states that had been protesting, had called off the protest. But contrary to what we heard earlier, we have some people on the streets who are currently still protesting against bad governance, and we have our correspondent Nee Omani, who's currently there and will be giving us a situation report. Nee, if you can hear me, good morning. What's the situation like? Where are you, you know, in Lagos State? Which area of Lagos State are you, and what's the situation there like?
Good morning, Blessing. Good morning, ladies. We are currently at Ojota in front of Ganifa Park, and it's day 5. It's been a long, it's been days before we got here, and compared to what started the event on Thursday, which was August 1, as to what we can see now, we can attest to the fact that the numbers are dropped, and it's blamed on one person who came out yesterday after the president's address, calling himself an organizer of one of the organizers and telling people that the president has spoken and that they have agreed that the protesters can disperse. I'm here with one of the organizers, Soweto, and I would let's start from here. He called himself JP yesterday because we start from events of yesterday that led to, he has been blamed for the dwindling numbers of protesters we have here today. He called himself JP yesterday and he said he's one of the organizers. Let's start with that. Was he one of the organizers, or is he one of the organizers?
He's not even part of the movement, let alone being an organizer. We saw the individual first, for the first time in our lives, or since this protest started, only on Saturday. And when he came, it was actually disruptive, trying to hijack an ongoing Congress. We tried to manage him, and afterwards, he went about trying to sow discord. All we just thought was that he was just an emotional person. It was only yesterday, with him coming out to speak on behalf of a movement that is not even part of, that it became obvious to us that he's a state agent who was actually sent on Saturday to try and hijack the Congress. And he failed at doing so. But he utilized the opportunity of yesterday, which was a Sunday, when most of the organizers were somewhere else, having a long meeting on how to respond to the president's broadcast. He chose the opportunity, that vacuum, to speak to the media here and declare something that is entirely false.
All right.
We condemn that. But what we condemn even the most, what we think is ridiculous and shameful, is the statement issued by the Chief Press Secretary to the Lagos State Governor, Babatunde Sanwo-Olu, saying that Governor Sanwo-Olu is thanking Nigerians and asking the protesters to go, their demands to be answered.
All right, Nee, if you can hear me, could you please wrap that up? Okay, well, we've heard from the streets, and apparently the protest in Lagos especially was not exactly called off, but, someone who claimed to have been a representative of God knows who came out and said that, the protests can be dissolved and then until something is done. But apparently it's looking like we are going to go the full stretch, as they had initially said. The question now remains whether or not people are going to come out in their numbers. Because I remember, ladies, that even when the protest started, people were complaining that there was not much. The turnout wasn't as great. So with all of these disruptions and I would say alleged deception, it might be worse. The turnout might be worse, because coming here this morning, it wasn't like when it started last week. Everywhere was already buzzing, the cars were moving and things like that. But of course, we're going to see how it goes. And I'm just going to say that News Central has been at the forefront of giving you all the details that you need regarding the protest, day 1, day 2, day 3. We're still on the streets, and of course, every information you need to get, do also follow us across all socials. Now, I did mention that we'll come back to the president's statement, and we're going to be discussing that. I said that the president on Sunday at 7 a.m. finally addressed Nigerians after 3 days of intense protests in the nation, and this erupted due to economic hardships and perceived government inaction, and the hashtag is End Bad Governance. And I can tell you categorically that many Nigerians felt that the president's speech, which he gave, did fall short of addressing their core demands. And in his address, the president acknowledged the turmoil and expressed sorrow over the loss of lives and the destruction of property. Now, he called for an end to the violence, and he also emphasized for the need for dialogue and unity. Now, certain things that we're going to be discussing here. Number one, the president defended his economic policies, which included the removal of fuel subsidies and foreign exchange systems as necessary for reversing decades of economic mismanagement. That's one. Now, put a caveat on that, because we're talking about reversing economic mismanagement, but we are the same people complaining about the government's mismanagement of funds. Exactly. So that's where people are like, no, it's not adding up, because you're saying, if you're like, I said this time and time again, it's not about the actions of the administration. It's the fact that it's like double standards. You're asking us to endure certain kind of hardship,
and the cost of governance is just
expecting it to get better, and then the cost of governance is skyrocketing. That's not all. He also cited achievements like increased government revenues, which I think has increased to about 9.1 trillion naira in the first half of 2024. Applaudable. Now, he also talked about reduced debt service and infrastructure project. Now, one of the infrastructure project that we know is CNG, and one of the problems of the CNG is there's not enough refueling stations. So there are literally question marks on almost everything. He also talked about some initiatives like the student loan schemes. And I remember that on one of my shows, I did cover this student loan thing, and there's still a lot of clauses, like the jail term and the repayment method, and the so many cumbersome process, the cumbersome process that is expected. And nothing has been done regarding that, because there's been no update. So it's like every of the achievement that he claims to have had, people come out with questions. Now, he also issued a stern warning against further unrest, and he emphasized the importance of maintaining public order. Now, despite these points, the speech has garnered significant criticism for not fully addressing the protesters' demands. Ladies, what's your thought?
That speech was infuriating.
Blessings, I must commend you for that, because it's very insightful, and you broke it down. You took time to break it down so people can understand
what's actually going on.
What's actually going on. And if they didn't watch the speech, so they have an idea in a nutshell what went down. First question I would ask Nigerians and ask you ladies, what you thought. Forget what Blessings has explained to us, but what did you think about this speech? The tone, whatever. What did you think generally?
It was infuriating. It really was. I mean, it was a very tone-deaf. It felt very tone-deaf. Felt very out of touch, very disconnected. People are talking about one thing, you're addressing another. They are disenfranchised, they are uncomfortable, they are sad, and you're saying, oh, listen, forget about what's making you uncomfortable, but just listen to what I have to say, and this is what I've done. So it felt like a very self-centered, look at everything I've done well. Why are you complaining about the things that you are suffering? And I just feel like that is almost like the ethos of the Nigerian government. It's very self-centered, and the self are the people in government. And you can't rule people from a place of selfishness. Leadership is service. That's the first thing that it is. And I think we've missed the plot with the service aspect of leadership in this country.
I'm inclined to toe your line, because I thought as well that it's almost like, and I say it all the time on the show, I feel it's like a sea-finish situation. It appeared tone deaf. You don't hear what the people are saying. And you're saying, like Blessing said, you're giving us headlines of what you want to do. But if we want to break the headlines down, there's nothing there. You talked about, I spoke with a family member who was out of the country, and they mentioned the student's loan. And I said, where did you hear it from? And I said, oh, it's in effect. What about? I said, it's in effect. Where are you getting your info from? It's not in effect. That's a headline in itself. But break it down, there's nothing there. You're talking of infrastructure, compressed natural gas. All those things are headlines. You've not even done anything. Fine, I get where you're coming from. Trying to right the wrongs that have happened over the decades. That Rome was not built in a day. No, it took years, hundreds and thousands of years. What it is you want to fix, no one's castigating you or coming against what it is you say you want to fix. But what are the things you've put in place for that? If you say you're closing a major road, for example, there has to be
an alternative route
for people to go by. There has to be, off the cuff, things that are put in place for things to cushion. We don't have a problem with everything you've highlighted in your probably 100-point agenda. But you have to think of the people you're ruling. And like you said, you cannot rule from a selfish perspective, no. But I feel the government, and so they don't see us finish. They've seen the citizenry finish. And last, after they finish protesting, they go house, go. That's why on the streets, it's like the president's speech just further dampened the mood of the people. How are you expected to fight against? It took away that gusto, that passion, that fire that made people take to the streets first time. Everybody wants to be heard by its people. Every citizen wants to feel like, you know, I'm heard as a member of this country. And when that is taken away from us, what are we doing?
Honestly, it definitely does feel like a whole lot of nothingness. And I'm even surprised that people are surprised at this speech, because that speech was like a clickbait, to be honest. Yes. It's like, okay, they asked us to speak, then let's speak. And then at the end of the day, it's going to be like, you asked for communication. We've communicated. What do you want? But I told the line of a lot of people who had said it prior to the speech that, look, if nothing is going to be done after this speech, then we don't want to hear anything. It's not just about coming to address the nation at 7 a.m. on the dot, where people said that he was still sleeping, you know, things like that. So it goes beyond that. It's about you understanding the pain of the people. It's about you not distancing yourself and saying, oh, I see what you're going through. And then the first thing that you're listing are your achievements. Let me ask a question. It's okay, right? I mean, a lot of times we celebrate 100 days in office, 200 days in office. It's too soon to tell, to be honest. But it's okay if you're still working on things like structural infrastructure. You're trying to, but every achievement you're listing, none of it is reflecting on the people. You're talking about foreign direct investment. You've echoed this, you've sang this even before you came up with the new national anthem. That was the anthem that we've been hearing. Foreign direct investment, foreign direct investment. How has that benefited the people? You talked about a revenue increase at over 9.1%. How has that reflected on the people? The revenue is increasing. The cost of things are skyrocketing. You mentioned a betterment of farm production, what in mass production for the farmers. The farmers' lives are at risk. Their crops are not safe. Go to the north. Farmers are complaining. Heck, their families are at risk. People are losing their lives. So all of these achievements are really just vague and not even connected.
There's a quote that everything that you've both said reminds me of this quote, and it has to do with, I was telling a friend about this yesterday, the French Revolution. All of us know about the French Revolution. And I think King Henry said something in French, après moi la déluge, something like that, and it means after me comes the flood. Now there's a song that talked about it, and just permit me to give this quote. It says, be afraid of the lame, they'll inherit your legs. Be afraid of the old, they'll inherit your soul. Be afraid of the cold, they'll inherit your blood. Après moi la déluge, after me comes the flood. I said this to say, I feel like people who live at a certain level have removed themselves from this struggle. I've looked on social media. Celebrities, people with platforms, people that have a certain comfort level have been quiet. They've been silent. There's no representation there. And I said this quote because if you think that the poor people or the disenfranchised people are going to get to the government before they get to you, that is delusional. That's delusional. People go after the thing that they don't have. A person that doesn't have legs, give him hands. He doesn't need hands. He needs legs. Exactly. An old person needs to live longer. So this is what I'm saying. And we feel like, oh, this is a them problem. We can still afford to buy a crate of eggs. We can still put fuel in our car.
Until you can no longer.
Until you can't do it. Even if you can buy a ticket and drive to the airport and jet out of this country, what happens if the roads are blocked to the airport? How do you leave?
We always feel that like there will always be a way out.
Exactly. And that's the problem.
I was on the streets at the weekend, and you know, the journalist in me, you just keep talking with Okada riders who were saying, someone said, one of them said that we deserve who we have as a president. We'll come back to that. But let's take Wole Soyinka, Professor Wole Soyinka's reaction, where he slammed the president's speech for encouraging a brutal crackdown on protesters, in quotes. How can you claim to care about the people when you're ordering security forces to attack them? Let's see. According to the professor, live bullets as state response to civic protest, that becomes the cool issue. Even tear gas remains questionable in most circumstances, certainly an abuse in situations of clearly peaceful protest. Hunger marches constitute a universal SOS, not peculiar to the Nigerian nation. This is the non-Nigerian, according to Professor Wole Soyinka, and everybody that knows, you know, listen, it just goes on and on. He says firing live bullets at peaceful protesters who bemoaned hunger in the land, according to him, symbolizes an ominous retrogression, the kind that precedes upheavals and most likely, in quotes, revolutions. Someone might say, oh yeah, it's, you know, he's just speaking a lot of English. But guys, take a moment and let's think about this. You know, on the streets, I'll continue. Let's call for presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, his reaction where he criticized the president's speech for failing to address the economic hardship faced by Nigerians in quotes. I'm vehemently condemn the heinous act of using live ammunition and citizens peacefully protesting against bad governance, as witnessed today in Kano and Abuja. It's utterly intolerable and reminiscent of the dark days of military dictatorship. It's crucial to remind the government and the security agencies of their paramount duty to ensure a safe and secure environment where citizens can exercise their rights to protest without fear.
Yeah. So I think we have more, I'm going to say something about that, but I think we have more reactions to that.
Inibehe Effiong slammed the president's speech for being a pack of empty words and time-wasting loads of irrelevancies. Wow. According to him, it's a confirmation of my long-held view that we're dealing with a fatalistic political class that's intentionally deaf and willfully blind to the sufferings and yearnings of Nigerians. This president is disconnected from the reality of the everyday Nigerian. He's living in an imaginary Nigeria that only exists in his head. The speech couldn't have been more meaningless and aimless. Those who wrote it and Mr. Tinubu who read it out have succeeded in justifying the reasons for the nationwide protest. It's appalling that despite what we have witnessed across the country in the last 3 days, the president did not deem it necessary to speak to the specific demands of the protesters. A government is only useful if it serves the interest of the governed. This government is anti-people. Tinubu made no mention of electoral reform, no reversal of his horrible and devastating economic policies. He made no attempt to cut down the overbloated size of his government. He made no concessions. He did only what despots do, ignore the agitations of the masses. Great leaders make sacrifices for their country, but terrible leaders like Tinubu only know how to sacrifice the country for their interest. It's a huge write-up, according to, and this is, he's not the only one. These are the ones that we've been able to just...
So what I wanted to say about that is, a lot of times when things like this happen, to be honest, and this is not me, I'm not criticizing anybody, everybody has the right to speak, but I don't want to hear from political party candidates because it sounds like a subtle manifesto, right? I'm not saying you won't do differently when you're in power, but we've seen things like this. The same president now was the same person who was at the forefront of the protest against the same subsidy that we're talking about. So a lot of times, I don't think that it helps when we hear these things from certain people. Again, I'm not saying that they don't have the right, but playing the devil's advocate now, a lot of people would say that, okay, the president has offered an olive branch and called for a conversation, for a dialogue. So who is going to dialogue? How do we go about it? Are we going to accept the invitation? And then let's try and remember what happened during NSAS, where we had a number of youths, and then the Socio-Economic Accountability Project, SERAP, organized a dialogue between the youths, and and then they came with a temporary resolution. Are we expecting a resolution from this? And who would even go? Because I know that, again, some people came under fire for going for, they're like, okay, no, you didn't do it openly. What did you guys talk about?
You can't win, but you have to pick a struggle. Like Annie said on Thursday, if this was extended to protesters, are the youth, how are they going to express themselves? Absolutely. You talked about it. If you don't read, if you don't remove yourself from social media, now there's an extension of this olive branch that there should be dialogue. According to, like I said, the Okada men, I saw, we just stopped by and have a chat, and they said, we are governed, we deserve we deserve the person who's governing us. That we cannot even come together to express ourselves as one. This is a man that is driving his Okada. We cannot even come together as a people to say we're expressing this and we stand solidly behind this. So what do we expect when we cannot even as a people come together?
I'm going to ask a controversial question. How many Nigerians, let's be honest, we're not being self-righteous or anything, how many Nigerians, including the ones protesting on the streets right now, if they were called to a private room and said, listen, I will give you so and so and so and so amount, millions, oh yeah, go. How many people would say, no, I'm doing this for the country? Exactly. I asked that because there's a clip I saw over the weekend, and you had this full-grown man sitting on the street, and he was crying, like real tears. And they asked him why was he crying, and he said, we were here yesterday. the people that are here today are way less than the people that were here yesterday because some of them have been paid and so they've gone home. He said this country cannot be fixed, and that's why he was crying. But, so it's,
But honestly, I do believe that there is strength in numbers, right? This thing happens, and I think that it happens across different governments and economies. But imagine if there are like thousands of people coming to say, you know what, we won't take it. Even if 100 accept it, if the others stand their ground and say, we can't take this. But a lot of times what we see in Nigeria is a few number of, like a staggering number of people coming out, and then out of that, they slash the number by giving them 5,000. I still don't believe that though. But we'll go on a very short break. When we come back, of course, we're going to continue with the reactions to the protest. It's supposed to be an ongoing protest. This is supposed to be day 3. And of course, we heard from our correspondent, Niyo Money, as to what's going on in Lagos. And very, very soon, we'll also be hearing from other correspondents across other states in Nigeria. Do stay with us. Jasiri continues shortly.
Welcome back to Jasiri. The publisher of Ovation magazine, Dele Momodu, expressed concerns regarding President Tinubu's nationwide broadcast, stating that he failed to address the demands of the ongoing protesters across the country. And so he proposed an amended speech. Let's have it.
It says, in view of the unprecedented suffering being experienced by Nigerians, we have decided to cut the cost of governance drastically. Some ministries will be scrapped and some ministers, permanent secretaries, and all redundant personnel will be eased out. No official cars will be procured anytime soon. Number 2, the number of aircraft on our presidential fleets will be reduced to maximum 2. I offer sincere apologies that we went ahead to invest in luxury items.
Where did you stop?
I'm tired. I'm tired.
If not, I will.
God.
Subsidy of petroleum products will be reviewed thoroughly to ascertain the genuine costs and true billing of the controversial payments. While we hope to achieve this in maximum of 3 months, we shall revert to old prices within the period in order to reduce the heavy burden on our people. We shall also escalate work on our existing refineries.
I understand why blessings pause.
Without which we shall be. It's
okay. So I understand.
It feels
so this
like
one says, instead of tasking civil servants and politicians to handle student loans and vocational grants, we shall engage reputable accounting firms and banks to set up modalities for credits and activate the disbursements.
Mr. Momodu.
Before we dive into this, because I was just going to say, since we are taking the president's speech piece per piece, the president, did express deep sorrow for the lives lost and properties destroyed during the protests, especially in states like Borno, Jigawa, Kano, and Kaduna. He emphasized the need to halt for the bloodshed and destruction, and it's evident that the northern states have taken this protest to heart. The videos coming out are quite alarming, with looting reaching unprecedented levels. The hunger is palpable. Now, I saw a post questioning if the northern protests are part of the same movement due to their aggressive approach. While we have a lot, to talk about, let's start with this. What do you guys think about the intensity of the protests in the north? Because they came different.
Oh, yeah. I think it's very convenient, though, that the president is so, what's the word? He emphasizes the looting and the destruction in the protests so much. I think it's so convenient because making it look like the North has a different agenda, right? We've said this before, that a lot of times when we have protesters, all of a sudden you're complaining about protesters looting things and hijacking. It's not the protesters. We saw a pre-protest against protest, right? So it's evident that some people are just sprinkled in the midst of the protesters.
I like that.
Right? So you cannot make it, it's looking like a whole new narrative, like, okay, in the North, there's so many people against that are making use of the No!
So
they're hungry. That. Let me tell you something. You were asking why have things gotten so intense?
Yeah, in the North,
I'm a northerner, and so we actually have footage of Kano right now. If you can see on the screens, look at how many people are out in the streets.
So this,
Okay, so I was saying, I'm a northerner, and something that I think maybe people don't understand about northerners is this. Where you hear, oh, I'm going to slap you. Yes. Oh, I will beat you. Yeah. Oh, I will fight you. No. The northerner them beating you is them telling you I'll beat you. So
okay, they do it as they're telling.
Yeah, they don't threaten you. They do the thing that they are going to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons. And these people have been pushed way, way, way back to the wall. They don't have any. There's no more give. Yeah. So you know what? There's no more back to go. Yeah. We shall go forward.
I think it was before we go back to Dele Momodu's tweets. I think people just didn't expect that passion and turn out from the north, because we always felt that, okay, you know, the north, now we get ginger pass, now we fire pass. But, you know, I think because people didn't expect that from the northerners, it's shifted the scale a bit and making people realize, oh, okay, so it's not only us here that are suffering this. All right, so because we have mentioned a lot of, we've taken it piece by piece, the speech by the president yesterday. So we're going to try and focus on the reaction so far, people, past presidential aspirants or candidates who have commented on this. But let's dissect Dele Momodu's tweets. What made you pause, first of all, when you started reading your blessings?
So first of all, the reason I paused was, you see that all these those aircraft really irk me. They do something to my mind. And I understand, yes, it's justifiable that you need, you know, your presidential aircraft and all that, but the details surrounding the aircraft, the number of people they're sending out for training, it's just a lot. Now, I get that this is supposed, I mean, this is what he thinks that the message should have looked like. And to be honest, to a large extent, this resonates more with the people. The apology for getting the aircraft, if it had come, would have been an issue, because it's like, you know what you did was wrong, and then you went on to do it, and you're apologizing. But it's more humane coming from Dele Momodu with the way he said it, because it's looking like everything the government is doing is not our business. That's how they're making it seem like, okay, we're renovating the vice president's house. We just said we should tell you. Yes, we just said we should tell you. So in case you're driving past and you say, that's us, you know. And then we're getting 2 new aircraft in case you see us flying up. So it's like, and I do agree with, you know, this, because even though an apology would spark something, it would at least make me feel like, okay, you know that I'm not happy about this. Like, I'm not happy that you're spending this much money. But it's like the government and the people were just seeing, you know, it's like there's a fence and then there's citizens here, the government is there, and we're seeing fireworks, and we're like, oh, what's going on? And then the media is burdened with the responsibility of saying, okay, they're renovating something, or you guys, and we're complaining. It's like, that's not our business. It's just so appalling.
We have an empathy problem. I feel like we've had this conversation before, if not with you guys, I've had it with other people. We have an empathy problem. If you're not able to put yourself in another person's shoes and feel what they're feeling, you cannot do good for that person because their pain doesn't affect you. And I think at the core of Nigeria's matter, even with the speech that the president came and gave, you see how lacking in empathy it is. It's not really about you guys. Your suffering doesn't touch me because I don't feel empathy. And I feel like that's Nigeria's big problem. And it's not just the government. It's us as well. We are disconnecting from what it is that makes us human. One of the main things is an ability to empathize with other people. We're forgetting how to do that.
I think if for me, I would say that would have sounded cheesy. That's the suggestion by Dele Momodu. For me, it's cheesy. You don't come and almost like you're just placating people. Oh, you know, like you're writing a letter of apology, and the government would never do that. Oh, I hereby tell you that, okay, because you say that this is a problem, we'll take it off. Because that's a problem, we'll take it off. I don't think that it is something that works well with the Nigerian people. I don't think so. And where you say, okay, because you say maybe we'll scrap some ministries and scrap some ministers and some redundancy, but no, I don't think so. And it's not Nigerians will maybe okay with it. The tone is you're too quick to make us feel better. So Nigerians will be suspicious of that. Okay, you know what, in maximum of 3 months, we shall revert to old prices within this period in order to reduce the heavy burden on our people. We shall also escalate. That is not, I don't want to mention names, but if it were a certain kind of president that we had, a former president that we had that said this, it would resonate more naturally. But I don't think with the present government and the present president, this can.
But that is the ordinary thing to do. I mean, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
and it's not just, it goes beyond just saying it, because it could just say, okay, you know what, let me have that and read it. You can read, and then in the next 3 months, we're not saying anything.
That interaction with the people, with the citizens, it's not. There's a huge disconnect, whether we like it or not. Guys, if we want to be honest with it or not, there's a disconnect between the government and the people. Punto. C'est tout, c'est fini. And I think they do a lot to preserve that disconnect.
Yeah.
Because they need to know, how we know who is
So speaking of disconnect, something else happened, and it's got a lot of people talking because it felt like we are disconnected as a nation.
Thousands of members from we're laughing here because if sometimes Nigeria feels like a bad movie. Thousands of members from the Redeemed Christian Church of God, they marched through the streets praying for peace, stability, and improved governance in the country. Reactions on social media were mixed. Supporters praised the prayer walk as a very vital spiritual experience, expressing hope that their collective prayers would lead to positive changes. Other critics, however, said that this is not what we need, and there was a lot of skepticism. Some argued that the energy spent on prayer walks would be better utilized in protests demanding direct governmental action. Comments highlighted frustration with the perceived inaction and the feeling that prayer alone would not solve Nigeria's specific systemic problems.
Catherine is laughing. Yes. She is our spirituality analyst.
I know.
When I heard spiritual, I just said to Catherine, this is the video of the prayer walk. And, that's the Redeemed Christian Church of God.
Mass. They came out on mass.
Okay.
I thought this is what the protest would look like. This is what I thought it would look like.
You see, Nigerians are desperate to believe in something.
Yeah.
And that's why, whether we like it or not, the leaning on the church and on religion is heavy.
Yes.
Even overwhelming. Yes. It's because there's a need to connect to something. The government is not allowing us connect to them. And we as a people, we carry church, religion, spirituality to another level. It's such the level. If you're not Nigerian, sometimes
you won't understand it.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
You wonder what is going on. This is what Nigerians are facing. You people decide that the way to do your protest is to march. The number of people who are in that Redeemed Christian Church of God march is not compared to the people who have come out to protest in one venue.
Yes.
Il faut qu'on dise la vérité.
So some would argue, and this is me playing the devil's advocate, that what will their presence at the protest ground achieve?
Are you not the one that said there's strength in numbers?
No. I'm just asking a question.
So even on the table we're divided. You see, Kat was saying people need something to believe in, and it is true. But you can only weaponize hopelessness in a place like Nigeria when you take measures to pull people's hope away from them intentionally.
Yeah.
If they can't get to the government, they're going to go to the next thing, which is a benevolent God who is going to save and rescue us from this. But let me tell you something. There's a saying, heaven helps those who help themselves. I don't think God's going to do anything for Nigeria if we don't have a mindset shift.
I believe that, or let me not say I believe, I don't feel there's anything wrong with the prayer walk, but I think that the timing is always the problem.
The timing is the problem in everything.
Yes,
look at this popular entertainment show that is on satellite television.
That show has no business running. It has no. We were saying the other day, listen, when that show was announced, I would think that young people, we would come out and say, hey, listen, this is not what we're interested in right now. Our country is falling apart, and we need to have a place to live in the next 5 years.
Ils sont tous là. Attends un peu, just wait a little. Yesterday, I went to the salon. There was a party in the compound, and I stood in awe. I'm like, man, demain, tu dis que tu n'as pas d'argent, mais you're throwing a party. You don't have money. There's no money, there's hunger in the land.
Yeah.
Mais vous fêtez.
What is the party for? What are we celebrating?
Where do you get now? Last, we're shouting. Rice, if we give rice, how much? They're cooking rice and serving
at the protests.
Yeah, so my question is, and again, Catherine, before you stone me something, this is me playing the devil's advocate. Because a lot of people would ask that, okay, so the reality show is airing. Nobody has gone for them. Nobody has said anything. Why is it? Because a lot of times, especially when it comes to religion, it's very dicey because everybody feels like somebody is after them. Yeah. You know, I remember the whole car parking situation, and then it felt like it was against Christians, it was against churches. Yeah. So now the religious leaders will feel like, okay, you're not going against this, you're not attacking these people, but you're attacking us for praying for the nation.
We've been praying for the nation.
Oh, my sister.
We've been praying for the nation.
Thank you.
We pray for the nation every 31st of December as we cross over to the new year. And I'm saying prayer might be powerful and it does work, but there is a part that you have to play as an individual. DJ Switch, she gave a very, very strong, poignant reaction, and we would like to take that right away.
Yeah.
So she says, if by now you still don't believe that the church is a useless political wing of this useless political party, then I really don't know what to tell you. Yep. One day, I hope Nigerians will find for themselves what they're looking for in churches. P.S. Your blessings are... What is this? Your blessings are in the policies of your country, state, local government, etc., and not in the church or your pastor. Your general safety is in the efficiency of your nation's protection services and not in the church. Your progress is in the availability of employment and access to finance, to build businesses, and not in the church. And one more, your potential for growing wealth is in your ability to understand how money works. And can you ladies just behave yourself? And investing that money in order for that money to work for you and not in sowing seeds or tithes. Wow, she came all out. Unfortunately, many of you will be lifetime cast in the smash hit, living in bondage. Wow.
Listen.
Signed, S. Oh, love it.
That response should be framed, yes, and it should be put up on billboards so that when we forget that we're actually I don't want to say the word fools, but we're playing the jesters in the film of our own lives. Maybe we will remember, like,
living in bondage. I like how she signed off on that. Whether we like it or not, if we want to be honest, say, how many
languages has Catherine spoken today?
God.
This country will make you do that.
Honestly. Seriously, because we react first emotionally in the country. We react first. We react emotionally first before we think. If we take a moment to read, to understand what Switch has said, she's not far from the truth.
She's not. She's right on top of the truth.
That we like to deny a lot of things, and we want to hide behind. Oh, it's church. I cannot do anything without my church. The thief prays before he goes to rob.
See, we talked about escapism, and I'm just going to quickly say this before we have to leave. Yeah. Entertainment we use as a form of escapism. Yeah. And I posit that we use religion to escape as well.
Of course.
We try to escape from our responsibilities, from thinking critically, from acting and doing what we're supposed to do. How many people understand finance, money management? How many people understand investing? But instead of learning how money works, because there's a system that it uses to work, we would rather go and pray. We can fast for 40 days, praying for money to come. You don't understand how to keep money or use it.
So I totally agree with you, because a lot of times, and Catherine has said this over and over again, that is not my portion syndrome, where first of all, there's this belief that anything happening to anybody is not our portion, but it's happening to somebody, and it's just a matter of time before it comes to you. And then there's that level of denial. It's so bad that you're at your workplace, you're not working as hard, but someone else is, you're pitched against someone else to get promoted, and you're saying that because you carry grace, you're the one unmerited. Yeah, exactly. So we have this laziness. Our religion is laced with laziness because we don't want to do anything. Oh, we can't risk our lives to protest. We can't go out there to do this, but we can pray for the nation. So that's the challenge that we have. The fact that we're leaving everything to chance, and we think that we're doing it because we believe in God. Even the spiritual books that we read, it talks about work. You go out to, even when you see all those people of old, the wall of Jericho, for example, you have to march around before it falls down. You don't stay in the temple and pray against it.
It's theory and practical. If you don't put in the work, you cannot get
the
anything
results.
out.
Yeah.
We sit and hide. We're shrouded by the fact that, oh, you quote Bible verses, it's not my portion, I carry grace, and all those things to make us. But what are we doing? Guys, let us take a step back. The people who they empty their accounts for church and for religious movements. What are we doing? I know we all want something to believe in, but oh my God. Well, we gotta go. What a show.
What a show indeed.
What a show, guys. We have to go here on Jasiri, and remember to join us again. This happens every day, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. West African time. Please stay safe, stay vigilant, and make sure your voice counts. I'm not doing that, blessings.
Why? From me and the